Good day, my friends. I want to talk to you today about something that weighs heavy on many hearts, the feeling of being alone. Maybe you've looked around and felt like you don't have a single real friend. Maybe the people you thought would stand by you have walked away. You smile on the outside, but inside you wonder, does anyone truly care? I want to remind you today that your worth is not measured by the number of people in your circle. Your value is not determined by how many text messages you receive or how many invitations you get. People may walk away, but that does not mean you are forgotten. Rejection is often a redirection. Sometimes you have to lose the wrong people so that the right ones can come into your life. See, there are seasons when you will walk alone, not because you're not good enough, not because you're not likable, but because you are being prepared for something greater. When you're isolated, that's when you grow. That's when you learn to stand strong. That's when you find out who you really are. Don't get discouraged when people don't include you. Don't be bitter when they leave you out. Some people cannot go where you're going. Some people cannot handle the greatness within you. But hear me today, when you stay faithful, when you keep doing the right thing, the right relationships, the right people will find you. You won't have to chase them. So don't focus on who walked away. Focus on who is still with you. Even if no one calls, even if no one checks in, you are never truly alone. There is a plan for you, and there are people ahead who will celebrate you, believe in you, and walk with you. Your best days are still to come. Too often we measure our worth by the number of people in our lives. We think if I had more friends, I'd be happier. If more people liked me, I'd be more valuable. But let me remind you today, your value is not tied to how many people walk beside you. Your worth is not determined by how many friends text you, how many followers you have, or how many invitations you receive. You were created with purpose, and that purpose does not depend on anyone else's approval. See, people may come and go. One season you may have a crowd around you, and in another you may find yourself standing alone. But that does not mean you are forgotten. It does not mean you are less than. Some of the most successful, most impactful people in history had moments when they stood alone. Being alone does not mean you are abandoned. Sometimes it means you are being set apart for something greater. Think about a seed planted in the ground. It doesn't grow in the sunlight surrounded by applause and admiration. No, it grows in the dark, under the soil, hidden where no one sees it. But in that quiet, unseen place, something powerful is happening. Roots are forming, strength is developing, and in due time, that seed will break through the ground and become something incredible. You may feel like you're in that hidden place right now. Maybe people have walked away, maybe friendships have ended, and maybe you feel unseen. But hear me today, you are not buried, you are planted. You are growing, you are becoming stronger, and in the right season, you will rise into the person you were created to be. Stop looking at your life and thinking, if only I had more friends, I'd be more valuable. If only people included me, I'd be more important. No, your importance was already decided when you were created. People don't determine your worth, your destiny does. And just because some people don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Sometimes the very thing we think is holding us back is what's actually pushing us forward. If you had the wrong people in your life, they could be keeping you from your purpose. Some friendships are distractions. Some relationships hold you back. And sometimes being alone for a season is the best thing that could ever happen to you. Because when you're alone, you learn to hear the right voice. You learn to trust yourself. You learn that your strength does not come from people, it comes from within. So don't be discouraged when the phone doesn't ring. Don't feel small because no one invited you. Don't think less of yourself because your circle is small. The right people will come at the right time, and when they do, they will appreciate you for who you truly are. Until then, walk confidently, knowing that you are enough. Not because of who is with you, but because of who you are. Rejection is one of the hardest things to experience. When someone turns their back on you, when you don't get chosen, when a door closes that you desperately wanted to walk through, it hurts. when it makes you question yourself. What did I do wrong? Am I not good enough? Why don't they want me? But let me encourage you today. Rejection is not the end. It is often a divine redirection. What you see as a loss may actually be a blessing in disguise. Think about all the times you wanted something so badly, a friendship, a relationship, an opportunity, and it didn't work out. Maybe you cried over it. Maybe you begged for it to change. But looking back now, you can see it was for the best. That person who left, they weren't meant to stay. That job that didn't hire you, it wasn't the right fit. That door that closed, it was protecting you from something you couldn't see at the time. See, we often have a limited perspective. We focus on what we want in the moment, but we don't always see the bigger picture. What if the things that didn't work out were actually making room for something better? What if the people who rejected you were actually doing you a favor? What if instead of seeing rejection as a setback, you started seeing it as a setup for something greater? Think about a child who wants to touch a hot stove. They reach for it, not knowing it will burn them, and a loving parent pulls them away. The child doesn't understand why. They may even cry and feel upset, but the parent knows something. The child doesn't. In the same way, there are things we think we need, relationships we want, paths we try to force, and when they don't work out, we feel hurt. But what if they were never meant for us? What if something better is waiting? Some of the most successful people in the world faced rejection before they found their purpose. Authors whose books were rejected dozens of times. Business owners who were told their ideas would never work. People who felt unseen and overlooked, but they didn't give up. They understood that rejection wasn't a sign to quit. It was a sign to keep going in a different direction. That same principle applies to your life. When someone walks away, don't chase them. When a door closes, don't waste time banging on it. Instead, trust that there is something better ahead. The people who are meant to be in your life will stay. The opportunities that are right for you will come. You will persist. The opportunities that are right for you will come. The doors that are meant to open will open at the right time. So don't let rejection break you. Let it build you. Let it strengthen your faith. Let it remind you that if something didn't work out, it's because something greater is on the way. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are being redirected towards something that is meant for you. And when you reach it, you will look back and realize that every rejection was simply leading you to where you were always meant to be. There will come times in your life when you feel completely alone. You look around and the people who were once close to you are no longer there. The phone is silent. The invitations stop coming. You try to reach out, but it seems like no one truly understands. You wonder, why is this happening? Why do I feel so isolated? But let me tell you something. Today, your season of loneliness is not a punishment. It is not a sign that you are forgotten or that something is wrong with you. It is a season of growth, a time of preparation, a moment in your life where you are being shaped into something greater. See, we don't always grow when we are surrounded by people. We don't always develop when we are comfortable, busy, and distracted by noise. Growth happens in the quiet. Strength is built in solitude. Some of the most powerful transformations take place when no one is watching. Think about a tree in the winter. The leaves fall off, the branches look bare, and to the outside world it may seem like nothing is happening. But under the surface, deep within, the tree is strengthening its roots. It is preparing for the next season of growth. When spring comes, it will blossom again, stronger and more beautiful than before. Your life is the same way. Just because things look quiet on the outside does not mean nothing is happening. Just because people are not around you does not mean you are not growing. In fact, this season of loneliness may be exactly what you need. It is in these moments that you learn who you really are. It is in these moments that you discover your strength, your purpose, and your ability to stand on your own. Maybe the people who left were never meant to stay. Maybe the relationships that faded were holding you back. Sometimes we don't realize how much we rely on others for our sense of worth until we are left alone. We think as long as they like me, I'm valuable. As long as they invite me, I belong. But hear me today. You are valuable all on your own. Your worth is not dependent on who is standing beside you. This season of loneliness is not here to break you. It is here to build you. It is a time for you to grow in wisdom, to develop resilience, to become the person you were always meant to be. The strongest people are not those who have never been alone, but those who have walked through loneliness and come out stronger. And here's the good news. This season will not last forever. Just like winter turns to spring, just like the barren tree blossoms again, your time of loneliness will lead to a new season of connection and opportunity. The right people will come. The right doors will open. But when they do, you will be ready. You will no longer rely on others to define you because you will know who you truly are. So don't resist this season. Embrace it. Use this time to grow, to heal, to strengthen yourself from the inside out. Because when the next chapter of your life begins, you will look back on this season not with regret, but with gratitude. You will realize that the loneliness was never meant to harm you. It was meant to prepare you for something greater. There comes a time in life when you have to recognize that not everyone is meant to go with you into your next season. Some relationships, no matter how much you value them, are not meant to last forever. Some friendships, no matter how close they once were, are not meant to continue on your journey. And that's okay. See, we have a tendency to want to bring everyone along with us. We want to hold on to the past, to the people we've known for years, to the relationships that once made us feel safe. But not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Some people were part of your story for a season, not a lifetime. Think about an airplane. When it takes off, it has to reach a certain altitude. The higher it goes, the thinner the air becomes. There are some things that simply cannot survive at that altitude. And the same is true in your life. As you grow, as you elevate, as you step into your purpose, there will be people who cannot handle the new level you are reaching. It's not that they are bad people. It's not that they don't care. But they were only meant to be part of your journey for a certain time. Sometimes we fight to hold on to relationships that were only meant to teach us something. We wonder why someone suddenly became distant. We feel hurt when a friendship fades. We try to force connections that no longer align with who we are becoming. But what if those changes are happening for a reason? What if instead of seeing it as a loss, we started seeing it as a necessary shift? The truth is, if some people stayed in your life, they would hold you back. If they stayed, they might discourage you from stepping into the next season. Some people will only believe in you as long as you remain at their level. But the moment you start to rise, the moment you begin to grow, they don't know how to handle it. Look at a rocket. When it launches into space, parts of it fall away. Those parts were necessary for the initial lift, but they are not meant to go all the way. In the same way, some people helped you get to where you are, but they are not meant to go where you are going. Part two, it's not personal. It's not something to be bitter about. It's just the reality of growth. You cannot reach new heights while carrying unnecessary weight. You cannot walk into your future while holding on to what was. So instead of grieving who left, start embracing who is coming. Instead of focusing on who walked away, focus on who is still with you. Trust that the people meant to be in your life will stay. Look, the right relationships will last. The right connections will find you. And when they do, you will realize that every person who left was making space for the ones who were always meant to walk with you. Keep growing, keep moving forward, because the place you are going is too important to be weighed down by those who were never meant to make the journey. It's easy to get discouraged when you feel alone, when friendships fade, when people walk away, when you look around and it seems like no one truly understands you. It can make you question yourself. Why am I always the one reaching out? Why don't they invite me? Will I ever find people who truly value me? But let me encourage you today, stay faithful. Keep being the person you are. Keep showing up. Keep loving, keep believing, keep doing the right thing. even when it feels like no one sees it. So because the right relationships, the ones that truly matter, will come. They will find you at the right time, in the right season, when you are ready. See, too often we try to force relationships. We chase after people who don't appreciate us. We lower our standards just to fit in. We hold on to friendships that are draining us because we're afraid of being alone. But when you force something that isn't meant for you, it will never bring you peace. It will never truly fulfill you. The best relationships are not the ones you have to beg for. The best friendships are not the ones you have to constantly prove yourself to. The right people, the ones who will support you, encourage you, and walk beside you, will come naturally. You won't have to convince them to stay. They will want to be there. But here's the key. You have to be willing to wait. You have to be willing to trust that just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Some of the greatest friendships, the most meaningful relationships, take time to form. And in the meantime, you have to focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Think about a garden. You don't plant a seed and expect it to bloom overnight. You water it, you nurture it, you give it sunlight and care. And after some time, it begins to grow. The same is true for relationships. You can't expect deep, meaningful connections to appear instantly. You have to invest in yourself first. You have to prepare your heart, your mind, and your life so that when the right people arrive, you are ready. Sometimes you're in a season of waiting because you are being protected. If you had the wrong people in your life, they might distract you from your purpose. If you settled for friendships that drained you, you wouldn't have room for the ones that would truly uplift you. Sometimes the loneliness is not a punishment, it's a preparation. It's a time to grow stronger, wiser, and more confident in who you are. So don't get discouraged. Don't chase after people who aren't meant to be in your life. Keep being faithful. Keep being kind. Keep loving and living with integrity. Because in the right time, in the right season, the people who truly matter will come. And when they do, you will realize that every lonely night, every unanswered text, every closed door was just leading you to the relationships that were always meant to be yours. There are moments in life when loneliness feels overwhelming. You look around and it seems like no one is there. No one calls, no one checks in, no one seems to notice what you're going through. You might be surrounded by people yet still feel invisible. Maybe you've been left out. Maybe you've lost someone who meant everything to you. Or maybe life has changed in a way you never expected. It's easy to believe the lie that you are completely alone, that no one cares, that no one understands. But let me remind you today, you are never truly alone. Even in your loneliest moments, even when it feels like no one sees you, there is a presence, a purpose, and a plan over your life that has never left you. See, loneliness has a way of clouding our perspective. It makes us believe that our worth is tied to who is around us. But your value is not based on how many friends you have. Your importance is not measured by how many people call you. Just because people may not always be there doesn't mean you are forgotten. Just because you feel alone doesn't mean you are abandoned. Think about the seasons of life. Winter can feel cold and lifeless, but beneath the surface, the earth is still alive. The trees are not dead. They are simply preparing for the next season. Your life works the same way. Just because things look quiet right now doesn't mean nothing is happening. Just because people have distanced themselves doesn't mean you are alone. There is a deeper purpose unfolding even when you can't see it. You are being strengthened. You are being prepared. Sometimes loneliness isn't about isolation. It's about transformation. It's in those quiet moments when there is no one to distract you that you discover who you really are. You begin to hear your own thoughts, understand your own heart, and find the strength that was inside you all along. Think about some of the most powerful people in history, leaders, visionaries, innovators. Almost all of them went through seasons of solitude. They spent time alone before they stepped into their greatest purpose, because in that stillness, they found clarity. In that isolation, they found strength. Maybe you've been searching for people to fill the empty spaces in your life. Maybe you've been trying to find comfort in friendships that no longer serve you. But hear me today. The presence of people is not what makes you whole. You are complete all on your own. Your journey is unfolding exactly as it should. And just because this season feels lonely does not mean it will last forever. The right people will come. The connections you long for will be restored. The doors that seem closed today will open in the right time. But until then, don't let loneliness steal your joy. Don't let it convince you that you are forgotten. You are never truly alone. There is a presence guiding you, a purpose waiting for you, and a future that is being prepared just for you. So lift your head, walk with confidence. This season is not your final destination. It's simply part of your journey. And when you come out on the other side, you'll realize that you were never truly alone. You were simply being prepared for something greater. Life will take you through seasons of solitude, moments of rejection, and times when it feels like no one truly understands you. It's easy to believe that your worth is tied to how many people are around you, but the truth is, your value has never depended on anyone else's presence. Whether you are surrounded by friends or walking alone, you are still just as significant, just as important, just as destined for something greater. Your success is something different. Rejection is not a dead end. It's a redirection. Loneliness is not a punishment, it's a season of growth. Some people are not meant to go where you're going, and that's okay. You are not being left behind, you are being positioned for something better. When you stay faithful, when you continue to grow, the right people will come at the right time. You don't have to force what is meant for you. So don't let loneliness make you bitter. Don't let rejection make you doubt yourself. Instead, trust that everything is working out exactly as it should. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. Even in your quietest moments, you are growing, evolving, and stepping into the person you were always meant to be. Hold your head high. Keep moving forward. And trust that everything you need, every friendship, every opportunity, every right connection will find you when the time is right. You are never truly alone. You are simply on your way to something greater.